Hi, I'm Darren Murphy and welcome to Fans Voice TV. Today we have a very special guest. This is a legend, Bobby Tambling. How are you, Bobby?
I'm very well, thank you.
So, in front of me now, we have an established Bobby Tambling. 202 goals, Chelsea, 3 international caps for England. So, we'll just take it back a bit and rewind back. And let's go back to the young Bobby. How did the football fire get lit in young Bobby?
Well, young Bobby was from a large family of boys. There was 6 of us and I was the youngest, so I was probably spoilt rotten. They all played sport. They played every sport, and they were all fairly, like local lads, and he played for the local team, and they were all fairly good at that. So I had the benefit of that growing up, So when I was at school, when I was 10, and my brother, that was the next one to me, above me, he was 15, we were playing in the same side. And people used to say, well, it's good to have your brother as captain of the first team because he's getting you in. So I said, well, at least I'm playing
Yeah.
And it was good fun. But we come from a very small place in England, Hayling Island on the south coast, near Portsmouth. And the school that we were in was very small. So it taught us one thing playing for that school team, taught us how to lose, and to go back and get more, and have another go at next school. And we didn't win anything. And the next season, for some unknown reason, we went to the cup final. And it was, a huge success for the school. The whole school was ignited with the excitement, the fact that we were going to the final. And I was in the team. I was, I think I earned my place in the team. And the night before the final, we were out where we normally played, just a little cow field quite near where we all lived. And but we weren't playing football this night, to my disappointment. We were playing piggyback riding, where you're up on someone's back and you have to pull them off. Stupid game, I know. It was for me anyway, because someone pulled me off and I fell on my wrist. And I had a fractured wrist, and they wouldn't let me play with the arm in a cast. So I missed the final, and we won. Jesus. And that was even a bigger surprise, because we were playing the biggest school in the area. But it was lovely to be there, and all the fans, all our mates, and it gave you a taste of what success was like. And
were you scoring goals for your school team back then? Like, were you scoring every week?
I wasn't scoring that many with that team because we didn't score many. But the next year, that school closed down for seniors. It was just made a junior school. And when we were sort of 11, we went to a school on the mainland, and from being the smallest part of the smallest school, we went into the biggest school in the area. So we had a reverse of results. We used to win 8 or 9 every game, and that's when the goal scoring started.
Brilliant.
And like it was sort of 5s and 6s. I was playing centre forward then, and it was just great, and it just shows, I think, like when I look back now, and I just think so many boys are like that. And well, I'll tell you a little story. When it came time to leave school at 15, they had a careers mistress go round all the area, asking, children what were they going to be, and see if they could help them, find work. And when it was my turn to go and sit in front of her, she said, "No, Robert, what are you going to be when you leave school?" So I said, "Pro footballer, miss." And I looked up, and I see this big smile on her face, and she said, "Well, Robert, can I tell you?" She said, 90% of the boys that we talk to at your age say exactly the same words. So she said, "What are you really going to be?" I said, well, miss, I said, I've got a form back at home. It's a contract to play with Chelsea, to sign on for Chelsea when I leave school, at the end of the term. Oh, well, that makes you 1 in a million, doesn't it? So I said, well, that's a nice way of putting it. But I could see her point, that because all the kids grow up and they think, I want to play this sport or be like their heroes who are playing it, and sometimes you think they might get down a bit because they're in the country, they're in a little place, and they think, who's going to see me down here?
And you were kind of nowhere.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So you mentioned the heroes. Who were your heroes when you first started playing?
Yeah, we're going back a good few years now. So we didn't have television like people have got today. You only had the papers or the sports magazines, the football magazines, and there was 2 or 3 of those out. So you read all that. And you read all about the people that were in the England side and so forth. And there was a guy playing for Blackpool, and as soon as I say that in England, they say, oh, Stanley Matthews. And I said, well, he was Stanley, but he was actually Morderson. He was the centre forward. And Matthews played on the right wing. And they said, who was your favourite player? I said, I read so many stories about him in the books. I said, and I only saw him play once when he played in the cup final against Bolton, and Blackpool won 4-3, and they were 3-1 down, and I was outside an electrical shop watching the game through the window because we had no television, and they went 3-1 down, and I thought, finished. So I got on my bike and rode home. Got through the door, and my brother said, God, you're half lucky, aren't you? So I said, stop mucking about. I said, sort of angry because, I was mad. And he said, they won. I said, you're kidding me. He said, no, they won 4-3 in the end. And Morderson scored a hat-trick. And what makes me cringe for Stanley Morderson is that they named it the Matthews final because it was his last final. He's pushing on the years, But I actually, years later, I met Stan Morderson. I embarrassed him, I think. I'll tell you that later on.
Yeah. But so obviously you're in school, you're scoring your 5-6 goals a game, and at Chelsea, was there scouts always at the game there? Were you approached by a couple of clubs or?
Well, I met one of the. I should think he was the funniest scout in football.
Right.
He came down to me when I was 13, which was way out of line. In those days, professional clubs weren't allowed to go near the schoolboys.
Right.
A little bit different today. They sort of have them in there when they're 8 or 9.
They'll take them to the hospital these days. If they
and so I'm playing away, and I'm playing actually 2 years before my time. I was playing at 13. I was playing for the under-15 county side, and that's what the scouts do. They let the school football thin out the players, and they used to go around the county teams and watch those games and pick up people from them. And he'd been coming to me for 2 years, and he was like Arthur Daly, Buzz. Arthur Daly of Minder.
Yeah.
Can you remember the car dealer?
Yeah.
He was a spitting image of him, and not only in looks but in ways, because he was a Cockney, and he was a real funny guy, and he used to come in, and I used to show him, like our house, we had a front room which was only used at Christmas, like it was a showroom really, and I used to show him in there, and we'd sit down and talk, and I'd either try to get my parents. You would think they were all sportsmen, but my parents weren't sporting, and so it was a little bit above their head with what we were talking about. So I'd either have a brother come in, to sort of just help me through
what are you going to do for Bobby,
and so forth. And he was so funny. He came out with so many things, and when I finally got to Chelsea, I learned that he was like that with every player that he'd signed.
Right.
And we always used to have a drink and a good laugh about how we got to Chelsea. And like, he was so good that when we actually got older and got into the first team and got promotion from like the second division to the first division after being relegated the year before, 8 of us had come through the youth scheme. So that just shows you, that he was good at his job.
Yeah,
and he picked up some, and just like being with a group of youngsters that you've played with all your school life, and perhaps even outside after school.
Yeah.
That's what Chelsea was like. We had so much fun. Like it didn't seem like work.
Yeah, so the fun part is kind of where I was going to ask you before we get to the Chelsea. So, like when you were in school, were you coming home from school playing football on your lunch, like I probably was as a kid? It was all football. It was like.
Well, we used to play football on the road near where we lived, near the cow field, and it was a cul-de-sac, and there would be about 8 or 10 of us, and we made sure it sort of went, sort of straight and then round a bend. So we had one half this side of the bend and the other half the other side of the bend. And we made sure all the boys who lived in the cul-de-sac came out and played, because that was the only way we were sure of getting our ball back. And it was only a tennis ball. We played with a tennis ball, and you read so many stories where we did, so many stories of the Brazilians playing with oranges on the beach and all that.
Yeah.
And we were very similar, like with the tennis ball.
Yeah.
I mean, God, that was a gift from God, like, for us, a ball. And we were playing one day, and when it went round the corner, a fella chased it down, and there was sort of a main road run down the bottom, across the back, and he only just escaped being knocked down by the lad who owned all the fields around us, the farmer, and he came down and given us a right lecture when it happened. He said, "I could have killed you," and he was really upset about it. And the outcome was that my grandson's just arrived, and the next day he sent 2 workers down to us, down to the like where the fence or the hedge was, cut out the hedge and put in a fence that we could climb through, a bit like those windows, and we could climb through. And from having just a cul-de-sac road, we suddenly had a floodlit pitch, because there was a street light right on the end of the opening. Like we used to go down there every night and play in there, and as you say, it was football every second of the moment that we was out of school. Yeah. We used to have to, in our family, we used to have to work for pocket money, and like that meant that every night at a certain time you used to have to go to the farm, where my dad worked, and help him get the poultry in and shut up, and so. I wasn't the only one. The brother above me used to do the same. You'd play until it was nearly dark, and then you'd pedal like mad for about 2 miles up, up the road. And he'd always say, "I suppose you've been playing football?" "Yeah, Dad." "Right." I said, "You won't earn a living that way." And these are all sort of sayings that he'd come out with, but we always used to tease him afterwards when it all turned around to be, he'd got it wrong, But no, but I'm sure children still do that. But the trouble is there's so much on television, so many electrical games that they can play that takes their. They've got to be a mad sportsman. Yeah,
it's kind of gone out of it now. When I was a kid, I used to play football all the time, straight away after school or lunchtimes. But now it's kind of more health and safety and. There's more cars on the road, so you can't play on the roads, obviously. But it's taken away.
the desire.
But then again, there's more training, there's more structure to training,
Yeah.
there's kind of more coaching. I don't know, we don't know if that's a good or bad thing there yet.
Yeah.
We'll find out in a couple of years.
Yeah, you know, like you'd like to think that it's good for them, you know, like, you know, in the sense
Yeah.
that it gives them definitely. Well, I always say, you know, like to people when they're bringing children to, you know, like the first time, I say, look, if your son plays sport, he's less likely to be involved with the lads who play sport, so they'll all have the same sort of mind.
Yeah.
And they won't get involved in trouble.
Yeah.
And I'm a great believer that that is
a huge thing,
outcome
right?
of you know, playing sports. Don't have to be anything, you know, don't even have to be team.
No, it teaches you discipline,
but it's
right?
definitely teaches you to, you know, like, and the game where it's a team game makes you realise that it's not all about you, it's about the team.
Yeah.
And you know, how to work together as a team.